So Feminist Frequency has put a lot of work and research into her latest video of tropes versus women.
Each video in this new series will be between 10 and 20 minutes long, with well-researched, in-depth analysis.
Indeed, Anita told us just how seriously she would take the research on this video.
As you might imagine, this project requires an enormous amount of research.
Using her skills as a pop culture critic.
As a pop culture critic,
now, I'm a pop culture critic. I am a feminist and I'm a woman.
To make sure that this was very well researched.
This is an incredibly ambitious project because of the scope and scale of the research and production involved.
Well, let's just see how well researched this video actually was, shall we?
So, without further ado, let's jump right into the damsel in distress.
For instance, she describes Double Dragon Neon like this.
Most recently, Double Dragon Neon in 2012 reintroduced new gamers to this regressive crap yet again, this time in full HD.
Without mentioning that the game Double Dragon Neon ends like this.
One day to antagonize you, Billy and Jimmy!
Oh, right in the balls.
Which I kid you not, she then goes on to describe like this.
The pattern of presenting women as fundamentally weak, ineffective, or ultimately incapable has larger ramifications beyond the characters themselves, and
yeah, that's right. The game that ends with Marion breaking a 20-foot-tall, super space-lit man in half like a toothpick by punching him in the balls is apparently...
The pattern of presenting women as fundamentally weak, ineffective, or ultimately incapable has larger ramifications beyond...
I think we're going to have a fundamental disagreement about what constitutes well-researched here, Anita. Now, this really wasn't the best damsel in distress you could have used in your first Tropes versus Women's video. I mean, really, did you have to start with the straw man in the title? Do you really think that tropes are specifically adversarial to women? Maybe I should title this video in a reciprocatively fair fashion. Maybe something like Feminism versus Facts. You know, not just scoring on the parody, but on the alliteration as well. But like I say, Feminist Frequency's ability to find patterns that don't exist is rivaled only by her ability to miss the most important and bloody obvious pattern of all. These games were not made to keep feminists happy. These games were not designed to subjugate women. These games were designed to be fun to play and thereby make a profit for the designer. And this is the point that seems to have completely eluded Feminist Frequency during her 20-minute analysis. And yeah, this does mean that in the case of the original Double Dragon, that if you've only got about 7 seconds to explain the plot, trust me, 7 seconds, I timed it, then the characters are obviously going to tend to be fairly one-dimensional and the storyline's simple. The damsel in distress, of course, is just one of the simple storylines you can set up very easily. Why? Because most people in healthy relationships care for each other and are therefore immediately willing to make significant sacrifices for their loved ones. Indeed, the very fact that they're willing to make such sacrifices does not show that you are thinking of your partner as the ball in the game of patriarchy.
I've heard it said that in the game of patriarchy, women are not the opposing team, they are the ball.
But is in fact a token of how much you care about them. I mean, let me just give you a couple of scenarios here, Anita. Billy's girlfriend gets punched in the stomach and abducted by a gang of thugs. Which of the following options defines the healthier relationship? That he immediately sets out risking his own safety to try and protect his loved ones? Or that he decides she's a grown adult and can look after herself, and then goes home to polish his car?
1970 Pontiac Firebird, the car I've always wanted and now I have it. I rule!
Personally, Anita, I think that most women would regard the latter as a relationship-ending lack of commitment. But Anita's take on an abducted loved one is a little different.
One way to think about damsel characters is via what's called the subject-object dichotomy. In the simplest terms, subjects act, and objects are acted upon. The subject is the protagonist, the one who the story is centered on, and the one doing most of the action. So the damsel trope typically makes men the subject of narratives, while relegating women to the role of object. This is a form of objectification because as objects, damseled women are being acted upon, most often becoming or reduced to a prize to be won, a treasure to be found, or a goal to be achieved.
Or a loved one to be helped. I mean, Jesus, girl, you are one sick puppy. So in your mind, if my girlfriend gets abducted, I can't want to protect her or to keep her safe without turning her into an object.
While relegating women to the role of object. This is a form of objectification because as objects, damseled women are being acted upon.
I mean, damn, I thought I was cold. But that's inhuman. Even the raptors in Jurassic Park showed more empathy than that. I mean, really, by your feminist reasoning here, hospitals, the places where patients come to be acted on, are actually objectification centres where people are turned into merely objects to be acted on. And doctors, they're not medical help providers, they're the biggest objectifiers of all. Or the police, when someone gets abducted, are the police now to sit idly by because they can't help without turning the abductee into an object? Yeah, it's something they learned in Anita Sarkeesian's feminism class. And this is the well-researched feminism that you weren't taught in schools.
Including 7 new bonus videos and a classroom curriculum.
Yes, it really is this simple. It's a sign that someone cares, that they are willing to make these sacrifices.
Captain, the Shuttle 37 is my wife on board.
Yes, sir, she is.
I need you to go now. Do you hear me?
We're waiting on you, sir.
No, just go. Take off immediately. That's an order.
Yes, sir.
Bart, the shuttle's leaving. Where are you?
Sweetheart, listen to me. I'm not gonna be there.
No.
This is the only way you'll survive.
Are you still on the ship? You have to be here.
The shuttles will never make it if I don't fight them off.
Sure. George, you should be here.
Impact alert.
What are we gonna call him?
We can name him after your father.
Tiberius? You kidding me? No, that's the worst. Let's name him after your dad. Let's call him Jim. Sweetheart, can you hear me? I love you so much. I love you.
This is a concept powerfully understood by almost anyone with a sense of human empathy. Now sure, you can overanalyze this till you come out with your desired conclusions, like how selfish George was to rob his pregnant wife of a sense of agency by acting on her and turning her into an object in the game of patriarchy. But your game not only displays an inhuman lack of empathy, it's facile. Look, I'm going to use this exact scene that you take from Dragon's Lair in your Damsel in Distress video and use my well-researched pop culture critic skills to come up with a similarly bogus conclusion to yours. Have you ever noticed how men in games almost always fall into one of a few stereotypes or cliches? We have to remember that this regressive sexism is turning men into one-dimensional, clueless objects incapable of solving even the simplest of problems like cages are locked with keys.
The cage is locked with a key.
Without the cerebral intervention and puppeteering from an intellectually manipulative woman, it's simply turning men into barely house-trained Neanderthal objects for the purpose of doing the dangerous work for a woman.
Oh, shit. I'm starting to feel bad. Like, I love my girlfriend, Marion, but, these guys didn't actually do anything.
We have to understand that such derogatory stereotypes are detrimental to our society and our cultural ecosystem. But to see really how much this regressive crap degrades men, you only have to compare how many ways there are for the princess to die in this game versus the knight. That's right, the whole game is one purpose-built giant death trap for the man. And where if by some miracle he survives, he wins the honour of being puppeteered as an object by the princess. Or, for that matter, let's compare how many coherent sentences either can offer. The knight's only dialogue in this entire game is screams and muffled screams as he's killed over and over and over again. Why couldn't he be a thinking hero who talks to the dragon and thoughtfully negotiates a mutually agreeable settlement? Why does this game have to dehumanize the man by making his only course of action killing things? I mean, you say as much in your own video. Yes, it's the beat-em-up trope being used here to propagate the socially harmful myth that men are unthinking psychopaths who can only solve problems by beating them up or killing them. You watch this media, and yet you fail to see the blatantly misandric elements in this game. Like this woman punching a man as spitefully as she can in his sexually reproductive organs. It's a deeply symbolic gesture of how much these games despise men by causing them as much pain as possible while simultaneously stopping them from reproducing.
Oh, right in the balls.
How simple do you need this hatred of men in these games to be? Now, I'm not saying that all games that employ such tropes are automatically trying to reinforce and amplify the socially harmful stereotypes that men are easily controlled, brainless fighting troglodytes. But this does help to normalize extremely toxic, patronizing, and demeaning attitudes about men. But like I say, you can overanalyze this at your leisure until you can parlay it into whatever desired conclusions you want. But it won't change the real fact of why these games are like they are. Because they serve a market. It's basically the same reason there are always beauty magazines. Because they serve a market. And it's the same reason that you in your videos wear lipstick, eyeliner, nail varnish, and those big girly earrings. It's not because you've made this conscious decision that women are naturally too ugly and unappealing and therefore need to use these appearance-enhancing cosmetics. Although I'm pretty certain that if a certain pop culture critic feminist were to be researching and analysing your very video, she would happily bundle you into one of a few stereotypical women in the media, concluding that you have simply become a chill girl and sister punisher by donning the Barbie pink bondage shackles of patriarchal expectation, by adorning yourself with attention-grabbing trinkets, and by painting your face to resemble mild arousal. Trust me, it would be just as trivial to paint you into the role of the willing servant of this non-existent, scheming patriarchy as it was for you to parlay the damsel in distress into a systematic attempt to subjugate women. No, you, like they, serve a market. The market you serve is telling feminists that they are oppressed. If you really thought there was a market for these feminist games, why not do the empowered woman thing and lead by example and design and market these games successfully yourself? I suspect that you know full well that the reason these feminist games don't exist is not because the patriarchy is conspiring against you. It's simply because there's not a market for them. Look, let's be honest. We both know the free market doesn't care what your ideology is. It only cares if it will turn a profit. Yeah, what you're proposing is not viable. And this is why you've shown this masterly reluctance to cash in on this gold mine of feminist gaming that you think is out there. And this is the fundamental reason why you are a critic and not a creator. I mean, why take the risk of making a game that will almost certainly be an expensive failure when you have this guaranteed market of selling the idea that you are being systematically oppressed by the patriarchy to feminists? But the sad thing is, even if they did make this game exactly as you wanted, you know, like that game that you were lamenting at the beginning of your video.
The game was to star a 16-year-old hero named Crystal as one of two playable protagonists. She was tasked with traveling through time, fighting prehistoric monsters with her magical staff, and saving the world. She was strong, she was capable, and she was heroic.
And who might you be, animal girl?
My name is Crystal!
Pretty cool, right? Well, it would have been, except the game never got released.
And it's a good thing it was never released too, because if it had been, it would have simply helped to reinforce sexist and downright misogynist ideas about women. You see, if your comprehensive research had included the master's thesis of the feminist Anita Sarkeesian. Oh. Well, if your research had actually included your own master's thesis titled "I'll Make a Man Out of You, Strong Women in Sci-Fi and Fantasy," you would have realized that... I'll let this guy explain.
She argues that strong, empowered female characters still aren't feminist because they're only pretending to be men. According to her, any woman in a TV show who shows strong leadership is only doing so in a charade of strictly masculine traits. The second diagram illustrates what she wants TV to give her, once again at odds with herself. Notably, she proposes significantly fewer positive feminine traits than positive male traits, with women hilariously unable to show confidence or self-control.
Not only that, but in your feminist world, strong is only a favourable attribute for the masculine.
She was strong, she was strong, she was strong.
This is just what it's like to play this game of constantly moving goalposts with this sort of feminism. It doesn't matter what the game that's made is. The conclusion will always be.
Games tend to reinforce and amplify sexist and downright misogynist ideas about women.
However, the part in your video where you go from finding patterns that don't exist to La La Land is here.
The belief that women are somehow a naturally weaker gender is a deeply ingrained socially constructed myth, which of course is completely false. But the notion is reinforced and perpetuated when women are continuously portrayed as frail, fragile, and vulnerable creatures.
Bullshit. You see, we are part of a sexually dimorphic species. That is, males and females tend to have different physical characteristics. Look, the reason that we divide the Olympics up by sex is not because we are inherently sexist. It's because men and women tend to have different traits. On average, in the upper body strength, it's almost 50% difference. Oh, come on, tell me again how this is really a myth.
The belief that women are somehow a naturally weaker gender is a deeply ingrained socially constructed myth, which of course is completely false.
And I've not seen the study yet, but I'm going to go out there on a limb and predict that there will be no correlation whatsoever between the number of damsel in distress video games and the ensemble differences in the upper body strength between men and women. However, many who take a few seconds to read the wiki page on sexual dimorphism in humans might come across this, where someone seems to be suggesting exactly that. The smaller differences in the lower body strength may be due to the fact that, during childhood, both males and females frequently exercise their leg muscles during activities like running and walking and playing. Males, however, are socially pressured to enhance their upper body muscles, leading to a wider difference in the upper body strength. But this is the cute thing, when you actually take a closer look at those references, and you find this. The Gender and Science Reader brings together the key writings of leading scholars and provides a comprehensive feminist analysis of the nature and practice of science. And just take that to heart for a second. A feminist analysis. Not an objective analysis, not a scientific analysis, a feminist analysis. Now let's compare that to some of the other studies, like one study of muscle strength in the elbows and knees in 45 and older males and females found the strength of females to range from 42 to 63% of male strength. Another study found that men have significantly higher hand grip strength than women, even when comparing untrained men with female athletes. And both of those are from peer-reviewed scientific journals. I think I'm almost to the point where I can track down the difference between objective scientific research and feminist research.
As you might imagine, this project requires an enormous amount of research.
I'm now also firmly of the opinion that one of these has a place to be taught in schools, and the other doesn't. I also note in passing, Anita, that you have disabled comments and ratings on your video, which has become the standard line for people on YouTube who peddle bullshit that cannot stand up to public scrutiny. I also note the reason you say you're doing this is a claim of victimhood. But let me offer an alternative suggestion. The pushback you get might mention that you're a woman.
I'm a woman.
But it's not because you're a woman. The pushback that you get might mention that you're a feminist.
I am a feminist.
But it's not because you're a feminist. Now, the reason you get this pushback, as I hope this video has amply explained, is because what you say is bollocks.
Now, I'm a pop culture critic.